The bet is that she would not be opposite to me, and she said she does not like the word gratitude. Forgiveness. Forgiveness, so here's what we're going to do. We're not going to use the word forgiveness initially. We're going to use the Aramaic in forgiveness. Sabak. Can you all say to Joanne, Sabak? Sabak.
Turn your mic on.
What I love about...
Mic on.
Oh, my mic off?
Mic.
You want it off or on?
On.
Oh, she wants it on. They want to hear me. I'm so grateful to be here, you know, and what I love about us is that we accept whatever point of view that's on this platform. It's kind of cool, and you were wonderful today. Thank you for that other point of view. Bob and I go through this a lot, and I'm going to mention him today too. You know, he talked about a couple of weeks ago, so we're going to deal him as well. No, today we usher in the idea of forgiveness. And why I do this, when I talk forgiveness, I think Thanksgiving for some reason. There must be a correlation there somewhere. Is there? Anyway, we're all familiar with the word Thanksgiving, aren't we? We're also familiar with the word forgiveness. And the idea of forgiveness, those of us who attend these kind of churches like you, the Center for Spiritual Living, there are brothers and their sisters, and any New Thought Church in Unity, we hear time and again from the pulpit, don't we, that there's really nothing to forgive. Have you ever heard this? There's really nothing to forgive because everything that happens to us is generally contributes to us. It's for our greater good. So what's the big deal then? Why are we dealing with forgiveness in the first place? Well, it's all well and good to say yes, all these things are true and acceptable. However, in the third dimensional world of form, it's easier said than done. And, you know, because here we're dealing with, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with our own emotions, we're dealing with ego, and we're dealing with a conditioned mind that makes it quite difficult sometimes to forgive. So what's the big deal here? Why do we need to go through this? Even Mark Twain, how many of you know about Mark Twain? Mark Twain, the author of Tom Sawyer and what was the other one? Tom Sawyer. Very good. You're on. He had a very difficult time of forgiving people, particularly this publisher that he had. This publisher cheated him out of thousands of dollars. And he had a very hard time forgiving that person. And as life went on and as the years went by, it came time for Mark to do his memoirs. And so he was going to do his, what do they call it, autobiography. So he decided it's time for me to forgive this person. So in his autobiography, here's how he dealt with forgiveness. And here's a man who has a hard time with it. He said, I know my publisher has been dead for a quarter of a century. And it's time to forgive him. And he said, I hold him with the greatest compassion you could possibly have, and I would send him a fan if I could. Thank God you got it. I was thinking, my gosh, what if they don't laugh? So anyway, why do we go through the motions? Why is it so important? If that is in fact true, that as religious scientists or new thoughters or whoever we are, is it true that everything that happens to us contributes to us? That's for our greater good. Why do we need to forgive anything? Anybody, do you agree with this? Well, for starters, let's get started on this whole idea. Forgiveness is a movement in consciousness. These are Pizelo-zations, so bear with me. Forgiveness is a movement in consciousness that mitigates some universal truths, and in the process empowers us. And you're going to say, well, what universal truths will forgiveness mitigate? Well, I'm going to tell you a couple of them anyway. Any person, situation, condition, anything that's capable of bringing anger into my life, of bringing fear or resentment or irritation, is a universal truth. This is universal. We can debate it, but I can tell you it's true. If any person who is capable of bringing this negative stuff in our life, this is a universal truth. And so it mitigates that universal truth, that anyone who can do this to us, it will mitigate it. Because when we accept that, what we're doing, we're allowing people and we're allowing conditions to short circuit, to cut off our universal greater good. And in the process, we allow these things and these people, these conditions, to take control over our lives. And so forgiveness mitigates that. It allows us to move through that and not allow that to happen in our life. Because it's a distraction. When we allow a condition, an opinion, or whatever to bring anger and fear in our lives, it's a distraction that keeps it away from our greater good. Do we agree with that? I think we ought to agree with it and clap for this universal truth. And that's what forgiveness does for Angela, and it does for you as well. There's another one, and mystics and spiritual leaders always say this, that hanging on to the past, to the wounds of the past, to the hurts of the past, this is neat, is the ultimate act of self-deprivation. It's the ultimate act of self-deprivation. And what it does, it lays waste. This is a universal truth again. It lays waste to my potential for my joy and my happiness. It lays waste to it. It plunders my life. This is from the masters. Not necessarily from Angela, although I accept it, and, and I've added words to it. It plunders my life, and it's the ultimate resistance to my greater good. Wow! This is why the idea of releasing and letting go, and not even using the word forgiveness, is important to us. Our human drama and journey is like aerodynamics of an airplane. Think about that. If you're not going forward, you'll drop out of the sky. Now, as a pilot, and I am one, I are one, as a pilot, I've never been able to fly my airplane backwards. Have you ever been in a jumbo jet and are heading to France and they said, oh, we got to fly backwards because we missed a turn? No. So now this may not be a universal truth, but it's a visualization. This is good. My ego is shining through here. Unforgiveness is like trying to fly the airplane backwards. You accept that? Yeah. No, you don't. And when we start dealing with this idea of forgiveness, it's really quite silly, isn't it? To allow the opinions of others, to allow some circumstances or condition or some form to determine whether I'm going to be happy or peaceful or calm in my condition of joy and happiness. It's silly, isn't it? Yeah. And yet, what do? We give it top billing. We give our pains and our wounds top billing. I know some of you don't experience this, but we as ministers sometimes do. And so what happens is we create the story. We create our story, and we want to repeat it over and again. We repeat the story, it takes top billing. I like Colin Tipping. How many of you have ever read the book that he wrote, Radical Forgiveness? God, it's awesome. And in that book, he wanted to quote Carolyn Mace, and she talked about the Navajo tribe, and it's kind of an idea. And what she said in this book is that this Navajo tribe figured out a way to prevent woundology, a new word. It's not my word, I didn't create it. Woundology, to prevent it from becoming addictive. Having woundology become addictive. So here's what they do. They have a ritual. Yeah. They realize that it's important for all of us, and we ministers understand that too. It's important for all of us to be able to talk about our pains and our wounds. We've got to do it. We've got to get it out and get it out above board. We've got to sunshine it, you might say. But overdoing it, living with it and embracing it over and over again gives power to the wounds, gives power to those negative issues. And so this is called woundology. And it becomes, what is that? Addictive. So anyway, what happens is they allow their members to come forward, and if you've got a pain or a wound, you sit with the tribe in a circle. Now you're allowed to do this 3 times. And you can, and the people listen, and you tell about your pains and all these things, and they listen with sympathy and they listen with compassion. But they only do it 3 times. You can't imagine what happens in the fourth time. I love this. I really start using it. On the 4th time, and they're still reiterating their pains and their wounds, they turn their backs to the guy who's talking, and they yell out, "Enough! Enough! It's time to let go. Enough!" Isn't that cool? Yeah. This is a pretty good. So Colin said, "Hey, this will be, oh, we're going to popcorn?" Yeah. So Colin says, this wouldn't be interesting if we treated our friends like this. And I